sippers, welcome to this episode of the Tea With Me podcast with me, Shane Todd. If you were watching the video version of the podcast, you'll know that I just held up my Tea With Me Shane Todd mug. And if you're listening to the audio version, you go, why did you take so long in between saying, welcome to the Tea With Me podcast with Shane Todd? It's a good day. It's a Wednesday episode of the podcast. We're feeling nice. Feeling really nice. I just came up to the studio. I didn't even tell Big Mike this because it's probably not worth telling this story twice. It's not even really a story. It just happened. As I was coming up to the studio, there was an American lady standing, getting shelter from the rain. And she said, can you tell me where well, she said in her American accent, she went, can you tell me where Park Drive is, mate? And I said, yeah, I can. It's up there to the left and then just keep going. No, up there to the right and keep going. And she goes, okay, thanks. She goes, and is Hollywood a good place to live? And I said, with a tear in my eye, I said, it's the best place in the world. You know, and I broke down, like, I started hysterically crying. Now, maybe because of COVID, a delayed reaction to this pandemic, maybe I'm having a breakdown, but I just fell to my knees and just started sobbing into the concrete pavement. And she was like, do you need help? And I was like, it's the best town. It's the best town. And it's a good time. But she did ask me, is it a good town? And I said, it's the best town in the world. And I realised when I said that, I sounded like such a child. Yeah, it's the best town in the world. Every other town's stupid. But maybe I made that woman move to Hollywood, and if I had, then it's a good time because the more... We don't really have... Like, there definitely are international residents in Hollywood, but I'd like to see more. You know what I mean? I'd definitely like to see more, you know? But it is the best town. That's where we're coming live from Hollywood, and it's the Wednesday Tea With Me episode. And it's all good. And we have a sponsor before we get into this podcast, Manscaped. Manscaped have been a sponsor of Tea With Me since Pussy was a kitten. And that is a phrase that this one, when my dad used to be a mechanic, this old woman whose car he used to fix used to say, blah, 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 since Pussy was a kitten. She didn't say blah, 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 since Pussy was a kitten. That would be unbelievable. She would say, you know, I haven't seen... I nearly said a cock, but that's so out of order. She was a really old woman. She probably I don't know what her situation was, but she would say, you would eat a wisp of gold, and she would say, I haven't seen wisp of golds since Pussy was a kitten. And every time she said since Pussy was a kitten, I always laughed. And then I would have to be like, and this probably only happened once, but I would say, oh, I'm just laughing because wisp of golds and stuff. But it was because she had said pussy. And that was always funny to me. But the Manscaped 3.0 you can use on your genitals. That's what it's for. It's precision engineering. You go to manscaped.com, use the discount code TEAWITHME, you get 20% off and free shipping. Manscaped is an electric... Big Mike doesn't have a Lawnmower 3.0 yet. We'll get you a Lawnmower 3.0 because I use it. Dan uses it. And honestly, if you saw me and Dan's genitals side by side... Again, it would look like someone had got drone footage of Phil and Grant Mitchell in their pump. It would honestly look like Phil and Grant Mitchell standing on a hill in a close-up drone shot. And Manscaped will probably watch this and go like, you know, that doesn't work for us advertising-wise. But that is just the way it is. Manscaped, yeah, it's an electric lawnmower. It's called the Lawnmower 3.0. We're not flogging lawnmowers. We're not sponsored by lawnmowers. We're sponsored by Black & Decker. It's a Manscaped 3.0. It's trusted by over 2 million men. And men don't trust easily. But 2 million men, including me, including Dan, trust this. And also on their website, by the way, the Manscaped Lawnmower 3.0 is pre-lubricated, it says, and that's always a good thing. There's reviews on the website, and let me just read this out. Shave my balls nicely, and that comes from Sebastian. So check out manscaped.com, use the code TEAWITHME for 20% off and free shipping, and make your pubic area go from a drone shot, from an aerial drone shot of Frank Mitchell to Phil Mitchell. Because Frank Mitchell has a lot of hair. Frank has very thick hair. I'm only talking about the hair on top of his head because that's the only. I haven't seen anything else. But I just mean you will have less hair there, and it'll be a smooth job. Manscape.com, tea with me, and I think that covers it pretty well. Sippers, it's a good time. We're in Hollywood. We're doing the episode. Got a lot of things I want to talk to you about. The first thing I want to talk to you about is I want to thank people for watching the TV show. Previously with Shane Todd. Everything I do is just with Shane Todd. Tea with me with Shane Todd. Previously with Shane Todd. What else? Youth Hostel with Shane Todd. It's a good time, but the TV show went down really well. There's nothing fills you more with oh boy than when you have something go out on local TV and you check Twitter, because there will definitely be virgin nerd guys ready to go shite, and you look at the profile and it's the Man United badge, and it's a guy and his name is like a footballer's name. You know what I mean? His name's Phil, but his Twitter username is Phil Ryan Giggs Paul Scholes. His name's Phil Ryan Giggs Paul Scholes, Glory Glory Man United. That's his handle. And he just writes shite. And then you go, maybe I value his opinion. And then you go onto his Twitter profile. Or Twitter. Well, I would get I do a lot of my social media on Twitter. But you also look at his Twitter. And he's like, he's tweeted about, in the last hour, he's tweeted about my TV show. He said that there's too many, and I quote, darks in Northern Ireland. And then he has also entered a competition for, maybe Blue Chicago or giving away, chicken burger. So it's not exactly Mark Kermode, the respected film critic. But the feedback to it was really good. Do that's a victory when people here tell you that something isn't shite. You'll always take that. Like people who you know and love going, I watched the show and to be honest, not shite. I enjoyed it. And you're like, oh, thank you. Thank you very much. That is the highest praise possible in Northern Ireland when someone tells you something isn't shite, because what they mean is they fully expected it to be shite and they're surprised that it wasn't. And you gotta take those wins. So BBC were happy with it. It was on 11:15, so I was fighting it to stay awake, and then when I came on, of course I was like, yeah, this is brilliant, because I love to watch myself. And it was good. Mike, did you watch it?
Haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen it yet? Wow. Thought you were my friend. Okay. And you've been off the last couple of days? Well,
basically from today.
Yeah, from today.
I've got Borat and Previously to watch.
Borat and Previously with Shane Todd to watch. I mean, they both will have been watched by the same amount of people, essentially.
Oscar talk of
Oscar
both, isn't it?
Oscar talk, yeah, but it's just because the cameraman on Previously was called Oscar. That's what that is. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the Borat movie in a second, but yeah, no, honestly, cheers to everyone who watched it. It was great that people enjoyed it, because even though you do something and you think it's good, you never know if people are really going to enjoy it. Like, I remember doing an experiment in school, like as part of a school subject. I wasn't experimenting in school, like, snogging guys, but this was a thing that we had to do in primary school in P7, and what we had to do is make an instrument out of household items. And I crafted this thing that I honestly thought was going to blow people away, and it was a wee Tupperware box with the lid off, and I put 5 elastic bands around it and took it in, and then everyone's like, what is it? And I said, guitar. And then what was a song? Name me a song in like 1998, late 90s, with a bit of rock, like a bit of
Baby Bird, you're gorgeous.
That's the best shout of all time. Also, that's one of the best songs ever. Because you're gorgeous, I'd do anything for you. I mean, music back then, like, I think music now is shit, but music back then was so bad. Baby Bird, you're gorgeous. What about in that song when he's like, I made this up, where he goes, you told me to hitch my knees up high, and pulled my legs apart as you're about to get fucked.
Yeah, or give birth.
Yeah. You told me to give birth even though I'm a man because you're gorgeous. Who the fuck was Baby Bird? Baby Bird, you're gorgeous. Do you know what else is a really good was a really good song from that time? And I used to really, really vibe out to it, was Tony Rich Project. Nights are lonely, the days are so sad. I just keep thinking about the love that we had. Now I'm missing you, and nobody knows it but me. No, Tony, everybody knows because you're singing the most depressing song of all time. Baby Bird is a music project centered around songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Stephen Jones, who's been releasing music since 1995. Yeah, he's still going. Fair play to him. You're gorgeous. God, that was a... Hold on, let me see if I can...
When was the last Baby Bird concert?
Baby Bird live. Baby Bird live. Anyway, I brought in this Tupperware with... Here, he was still touring in... He did the O2 in Manchester in 2019.
As Baby Bird?
Yeah. People still really loving Baby Bird. That is a... Because you're gorgeous.
I've written that for solid 20 years.
How sick of that would you get if you're Baby Bird for 20 years? Because you're gorgeous. Do you know, that era also reminds me of Deep Blue Something, Breakfast at Tiffany's, because that was the most radio friendly song ever, and I remember going to a car showroom whenever I was about 10, not by myself, some sort of sultan child. I remember going like with, I don't know, my mum or my dad to look at cars, and I got into a Fiat that was open, and I turned the radio on, and it was Deep Blue Something, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and it wasn't playing that loud. And then I just got out of the car and didn't turn the radio off, and that still haunts me to this day, that I might have ran the battery down in that car. But anyway, I took this Tupperware box in P7. I was in a group of like 4 people, and I said, like, don't worry, I can craft an instrument. I'm Fender himself, and I brought in a Tupperware box, 5 elastic bands around it, and I remember saying it can play any song. And someone, I took a request, and somebody was like, Baby Bird, you're gorgeous, for talk's sake. And I said, oh, thank you, sir, I appreciate it. I said, okay. And I remember plucking the elastic bands along, but I was like, bam, 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 bam. It didn't sound anything like the song, but I thought I could play any song on it. And I remember the teacher being like, yeah, though, that's just quite disappointing. And I remember everyone in my group being like, you fucked us here. Like, because if we had known this is what you were going to bring in, we would have done something. And then I remember this guy called Matthew Townley, who his real name, who was in my class, who may well listen to the podcast. I haven't seen him since P7. I remember he turned around to me and went, can I keep it? I was like, no, you villain, it's my mum's Tupperware. And he was like, I really want to take it home. I went, it's not a guitar, like, it's not an instrument. And he was like, oh, I just really was hoping I could have that. I was like, no, you can make it yourself. Oh, that's such a primary school thing to do, of like, here, can I have that? Like, you have no concept of entitlement. Same year, P7, I remember the school was having, I went to shout out Strandtown Primary School, which was the best primary school ever, and my mum recently told me it's the biggest primary school in Northern Ireland, and I think she might have made that up. But I remember there was like a sale for Africa or something, and in the assembly hall, people like mums and grannies and all were selling themselves. No, they weren't. They were selling like tin foods and the baked stuff. And I remember there was a chocolate fudge cake, and me and Andrew Brown, you may remember, being the boy that I hit with a baseball bat when he came for a sleepover at my house, and he had to go home and never talk to me again. And that's just the way that happened. But I remember there was a chocolate fudge cake, and it was being sold, I still remember this, for £1.25. And me and him eyed it up that day, and he lived closer to the school than I did, but I remember we both sprinted home to get money to run back to the school and buy this chocolate cake. And then I think about 5 years later I realised I could have just got it at the shop. but I needed that one. Like, that was the one, and he got it. And listen, I don't bear any grudge, but weeks later from that, I did go on to hit him with a baseball bat. So make of that what you will. I don't know what I was talking about there, but I just know that it's good to be out. It's good to be doing the podcast. We're being very socially distanced here. Big Mike's over there with a mask on. Now, to be fair, it's not a like COVID mask. It's not that kind. It's more of the rubber variety. But he's wearing it. He likes it. He's got a big funnel. I don't know what he uses it for. Maybe whales, or I don't know, or like deep sea dives. Because if I can describe to you his mask, it's a rubber. He's got a rubber mask on, and he has like a big funnel out the out the front of it. He's got like rubber mask, a big tube. Also, where both of his eye holes are, there's two little like doors. There's two doors. That both say insert here, and then he just has this big funnel, and and it says it says on it. I don't know what this means, but it says attached to bum. I don't know what that means. But he says it's keeping him fit and healthy, and he says if any guests eventually are able to come here in the next couple of weeks, he can provide them with one. So that's good. Imagine just going to Centra in a full gimp mask, being like, "Hey guys, you can't be too careful." Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you to everyone who watched the TV show. Appreciate it. We've got 2 more episodes, which is good because most stuff I've done before has been like a wee one-off. You know, I'm like a thief in the night. I arrive and then I'm gone as quick as I came. But there's more episodes, which is good, and it's on the iPlayer, and I think people like it because we like looking back at ourselves. Well, don't we like looking back at ourselves and going, oh, what were we like? We love looking back at the troubles and going, what were we like? We like looking back at the pain and the misery and going, oh, that was us. We haven't been that happy since. Oh, do you remember? Do you remember when there was 9 editions of the Belfast Telegraph every day purely because they had to keep up with the horrific things that were happening? Good times, but yeah, it was good. Also, there was no live audience like there used to be with the pilot episode, so we had to do it a bit different. That's what I was worried about. That was my main worry, that people would have seen the pilot where it's almost like a comedy club audience, and then they look at this and they're like, but it's just you in a big studio. But I don't think it felt like that because the pace of it was good and it was well edited. So thanks for watching that. And then I just want to quickly mention, I'm not going to do any spoilers, the Borat movie. Mike hasn't seen it. The Borat, I was so worried about the Borat movie because I love the first one. Like when the first one came out, 10 years ago? More?
2005 or something like that?
Yeah, say 15 years, roughly. And I was just so desperate that this one would be even half as funny. I was like, please don't let this be shit. Please don't let it be shit. And it takes a wee while. I don't think it's like as gag heavy as the first one, so there's not as many like quotable bits. But I think like any good like character, like Steve Coogan does with Alan Partridge, you like evolve the character almost. And you're not watching, because if you watch this, how many things do you watch that age badly? Because it's just the same thing, but so much time has gone past and the world has changed. That's why I love Alan Partridge, because when Steve Coogan brought him back for the Alpha Papa film and for stuff that he's done more recently for Sky, the character dresses differently, his delivery's different, even the writing and stuff. And I think there's less laughs in the second Borat, but the big laughs that there are bigger than the first one. Like there's just a couple of moments, again, without, I swear I won't spoil anything, the debutant ball, the scene where they go to like a ball, and there's like an abortion scene where people are like, oh, people switching off in their droves. No, it's a scene where they go to a Christian clinic that promotes you not having an abortion, basically, and that is very, very funny. But I think like even because when I watched the Rudolph Giuliani clip, Rudy Giuliani used to be the mayor of New York. He was mayor during 9/11. Very, very, very famous politician. I think he's Donald Trump's lawyer. He's like Trump's right-hand man, basically. And he got into that compromising position in the hotel. And there, where it looks like he put his hand down his trousers. And then everyone's like, no, he's just untucking his shirt. Well, no, he was untucking his cock, is what he was untucking, I think. But I watched that clip and I thought, oh, that's what the film's going to be. It's going to be just these like stunts, it's going to be that kind of thing, but it's not at all. Like, that wasn't even one of the 10 funniest bits of the film. Really, really, really good. I loved it, and I think people are going to enjoy watching it. But the thing as well is, like, I was chatting to comedian friends about it, and I can't remember who said to me, they're like, it's almost like sad how good it is, because no one's really able to make stuff at the minute, and you just watch that and go, that's just hilarious stuff, but I loved it. I thought it was so good. And also, I've been watching DuckTales. I got Disney Plus, and on Disney Plus, sponsor the podcast, you can watch anything basically Disney have ever made. And I never watched DuckTales at the time, and I don't know why I wrote off DuckTales, and now I'm like, I just watch DuckTales all the time, and I say I'm watching it with the baby, but the baby's 3 months. The baby doesn't know what is on TV. He just sees colours on television. But I say, I'm like, oh, me and him are just watching DuckTales, but he's not watching DuckTales. He'd watch anything. The only thing he likes is Four in a Bed and Channel 4. Like rating B&Bs. He likes that a lot. But everything else is just like white noise to him. But DuckTales, did you watch DuckTales when you were younger? Scrooge McDuck. Yeah. So good. I think the one on Disney Plus is like a new version of it. Right. But it still looks like the classic episodes, which I like, because I remember watching a cartoon channel recently, and it was all like, it freaked me out because it was so like well animated to the point where it nearly looked realistic, and I'm like, just give me the old cartoon style. Yeah. Top Cat was my favourite cartoon. Top Cat was so good. And then they made a film, but they made like a Top Cat film, but like 2 years ago, or maybe a bit more. And instead of making it in like California through one of the big studios, like some Mexican company made it, and it's apparently like the worst like cartoon film of all time. But I don't know, I haven't seen it. Before we do listeners' questions, one thing I want to do is, and also, by the way, let me announce that we have a new sponsor doing the Friday episodes. And listen, we've got Manscaped on a Wednesday, we've got a new sponsor on a Friday, and a lot of podcasts would go, let's just talk about them in the Friday episode because that's the one they're sponsoring. But on the Tea With Me podcast, when you sponsor the Tea With Me podcast, you just become part of you're just in the pot. You're in the pot. And Joop Joop Sweets are sponsoring the Friday episode of the podcast, and they sent us loads of class sweets and candy, and I think in the Friday episode I could see us having some sweets. Like, I could definitely see us having some sweets. So they're sponsoring the podcast, and that's great, because I was actually I think I said this on a Patreon episode recently, or maybe the actual episode, where I was saying like maybe we just go down to one episode a week now, and then maybe do 2 for Patreon. And then I said this to producer Dan, I was like, maybe do 1 episode a week publicly now and 2 Patreon episodes. And he drove round to my house and like open hand hit my nose, like you would do with a dog. And then he put a collar on me and a leash, and he took me for a walk. And on that walk he said, if you ever say that again, I will hurt you. And no, he didn't. He just basically said the listening figures for this are so high compared to what they started at, and they get bigger all the time. So I think we just maybe are going to keep doing 2 episodes a week. I'm not too sure, but that. So what I'm saying is thanks. And if you ever want to sponsor an episode, teawithmepodcast@gmail.com. Before I go into this thing that I want to do, which I think will be a little bit of fun, let me plug the Patreon, which is patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. Let me just double check that it is that, because sometimes I say the wrong one. But on the Patreon, you get a bonus episode that me and Dan do every week. You get my stand-up special from last year. You get the live episode. Yeah, Patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. You get the live episode that we did with me, Dave, Kieran Bartlett, and then all the sippers were just getting involved as well, which was a lot of fun. And we are committing to doing one of those a month now for Patreon. So with Patreon, you're supporting the podcast, but what you're doing is just like buying more content that hopefully you already enjoy. So let's do this thing, which is an article that caught my eye recently. It's the Northern Ireland bucket list, the 25 best things to do in Northern Ireland. Now, I don't know if these will definitely be the 25 best things to do, but let's just go through it and see what people are saying. Number 25, a Game of Thrones tour. Yeah, Northern Ireland is the home of Game of Thrones. Several tour companies explore all the major filming locations. Notable highlights include Winterfell Castle, the cave where Melisandre gives birth to a dark spirit, Renly's camp in the Stormlands, and the Iron Islands beach. Yeah, I don't think I would like to do a Game of Thrones tour for the reason that I think there would be too many enthusiastic people doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like people who are like, I would do it if it was just me and like all my friends that like Game of Thrones. Like, you like Game of Thrones, Mike? I like Game of Thrones. I think we would enjoy that. But at the same time, I don't want to be on a bus and look around and have two people beside me from, I don't know, Russia or Congo that are fully done up in the Dothraki gear, because I wouldn't like that. I would laugh at that at first, but then I'm like, oh, we're also on a 4-hour journey with these people. You know, I don't want to turn around and see two people dressed up as Lannister soldiers and they're just sitting there with a packed lunch on their knee. You know, that's not the vibe I want. But I don't know. I mean, I think the big tour companies that do this would be a lot of fun, but then I think there would also be some cowboys doing like, you know, on the sly Game of Thrones tours, just trying to hook in tourists, but it's boys who have never seen Game of Thrones. You know, guys on like an old minibus with no MOT, taking a bunch of Japanese people up Lenadoon, being like, this is where all the dragons and all this, like, yeah, saying things that aren't in Game of Thrones, like, yes, mate, all the big demon horses and all, mate, they run around here, and this is where you know, just like names wrong. This is where Jon Snow got shot, mate. What? Yeah, guys taking you down to the docks and being like, this is where Jon Snow got kneecapped. I don't know if he did get kneecapped. Guys just taking you out. Yes, mate, this is where they filmed the majority of Game of Thrones. Is it because this is the car park at KFC Butcher? I don't know if this is where they filmed the majority of Game of Thrones. Just complete cowboys who just do like just a lap of where they live, just because they can't be fucked taking you too far. So they just take you round city centre, pointing out things. Yeah, mate, sure, this is where the Red Wedding was. That looks like Nando's on the Dublin Road. Yes, mate, that's where they filmed it. I don't know. Number 24, St. George's Market. St. George's Market is very good because you can, I think Aaron Butler was talking about this in the podcast a couple of months ago. St. George's Market, you can kind of get so many quirky things. Like, it's the only place in the world within a 10-foot radius you can get. It's the only place you can get, you know, prosciutto ham and a caricature of your dad at two stalls beside each other. You know, you can get artisan fudge and a t-shirt that says Northern Iron. By the way, I know this is sly, right? I know this is sly to say, but I hate slogan things up from here. Like, you know, you ever like be in a shop and there's like a 50-year-old dad at the till beside you, and he's got a t-shirt on that says, "That's us now," and you clock it, and he looks at it and he goes, oh, look at that, and you're like, no, I don't like that. Slogan t-shirts are the worst, but then again, I'm a hypocrite, because when I was 14, I bought a t-shirt from Top Man that said, "It's my duty to please that booty." And let me tell you, at 14, I was pleasing zero booties. It was false advertising. Oh, Mike, do you remember the time we went to a guy from Tech's house for, like, you know, a night of drinking in Donaghy, and I wore so I had a big jacket on because it was winter, and underneath it, I had a t-shirt, and I was like, what, 16? I had a t-shirt on it that said, "Porn star wanted, inquire within." It was a silhouette of a woman with a big set of tits, but you could see the nipples. And I misjudged the thing, because when he said come round for drinks, I thought, oh, it's just going to be us young people there. Everyone will love this t-shirt. And turned out it was a family party. And I walked out with that t-shirt on of like the kitchen into the living room, wherever it was. And he stopped me and he was like, "Can you not wear that in front of my family?" And I said, "Is it bad?" And he's like, "It says porn star wanted, inquire within." And it's a busty woman with her boobs out. But we all make mistakes. It's one of those ones where, like, I didn't even know until someone pointed out to me that was bad. And I've slagged slogan t-shirts, and I was running about with a Diddy t-shirt on.
That said, "You look like I need a drink," and like we army man send to the pub and all.
Oh, to the pub. If found, please return to the pub.
Yeah.
I think I did a bit of stand-up whenever I was like 20. That never went anywhere or never was funny. Where, like, all my material when I was that age, which is... I used to do a bit about archaeologists digging up people our age in like 1,000 years and getting clues about, you know, us as people by our t-shirts. So you'd have archaeologists dig one of us up and look at our t-shirt and be like, "We have found this man, we must return him to the pub." Or like dig up this man and be like, "We can tell his profession by his clothes was a female boob inspector." You know, what would that have entailed? FBI. Do you know, I remember whenever we went to tech, there was a popular t-shirt loads of people had, which was, "I'm a bomb disposal expert. If you see me coming, run." Like the worst, like back then, like no one had personality. None of us had personality, so you relied on your t-shirt being funny and doing the work for you. You just pointed at your t-shirt.
None of us had personality.
None of us had personalities, no. Number 23, Clive Sleeve Binion. Clive Sleeve Binion is a TV detective from Leeds. Clive Sleeve Binion. "Hello, I'm Detective Clive Sleeve Binion." The most beautiful peak in Northern Ireland. So I think Sleeve Binion is the one beside Sleeve Donard, and I think it's on this list because some people get to the wall, when they're going up Sleeve Donard, where you get, so if you go from Donard Park, you get up to Sleeve Donard, which if you don't know, if you're an international sipper, Sleeve Donard's the biggest peak in Northern Ireland. So you go up Sleeve Donard, or you go up to Sleeve Donard, you hit this big stone wall, and you can go left up to Sleeve Donard, which is the highest, or you can go right to Sleeve Binion, I think, which is not as high, but is still pretty high. I think this is on this list because a lot of people go, "Oh, that one looks actually even nicer," but it's just because you're fucked and you can't make it. Like, Stephen Nolan went one day, do you remember? He documented this on Twitter. Nolan was like, "You know what? I'm going up Sleeve Donard," and he documented the whole thing. I think he was supposed to be on radio at like 10 o'clock that night, and he set up going up Sleeve Donard at like 1, having never gone up a mountain before. And he posted a thing about he was struggling on his way up, and eventually he posted this picture at like 6 o'clock of him with it, like his hands up in the air, victory. He's like, I did it. And it was a picture of him at the wall at the bottom of the peaks, and everyone's like, "No, you didn't. Like, you have to go up to the peak. Like, don't go that far and then not make it the rest of the way." And spoiler alert, I'm pretty sure, did he have to phone the mountain rescue? No, I don't think he had to phone the mountain rescue, but I think he missed his radio show that night, or there was something where like there was some major drama, or like it was dark when he was going down or whatever. I would have liked to I would definitely go rambling with Nolan, not a problem if he wants to go up Sleeve Donard. I like going up Donard with people who haven't done it, because it's not that bad, but like the view on a clear day, the view from the top is smashing. Mike, you ever been up Sleeve Donard?
No.
I wouldn't have thought you'd been up there. I just think I don't think you're a mountaineering guy.
The hotel at the bottom.
You've been to the hotel at the bottom. All right, what's that guy called? Ronald Fines. I've been to the hotel. What?
Bear Grylls.
Bear Grylls, yeah.
He does the hotel.
Yeah, remember Bear Grylls did like a world tour of the deadliest places on Earth, and he went to like the Amazon, he went to like the Rockies, and then he did an episode in Donegal, and he pretended he was stuck in a bog in one episode, and in the background there's just like guys just walking about There's just like fellas in the background smoking a pipe, and he's like, "I am deserted in the middle of nowhere," and you're like, "Are you?" Because I can see a cost cutter, a quarter of a mile in the distance behind you. So Clive Sleeve Binion, I think. Look, if you've done Donard, do Binion. Clive, I'm Clive Sleeve Binion, and you're nicked. I would say if you've done Sleeve Donard, do Sleeve Binion. But there's another one. Krubub or Krubub? I don't know what it's called. I know he's the UFC fighter. No, I think Krubub is that UFC fighter. Fought Conor McGregor. Sleeve Krubub. Is that it?
Just Krub, no?
Krub? Sleeve Krub? Maybe it is. Yeah, I want to do that one because I haven't done that. Number 22, the Derry Walls. Derry. Yeah. But if you're there, you know what I mean? I don't think Derry Walls are worth a trip to Derry to see the walls unless you're 68. I think if you're there, definitely take a nice walk around the walls. Look at the cannons. If you have an old cannonball, stick it in. Might be a bit of fun. Yeah, Derry walls are fine. Number 21, the SSE Arena, Belfast, to catch a Giants game. I mean, this is a bucket list thing, so I don't know if I think you'll have a good time for sure. I've been to a Giants game. It's enjoyable to see a sport I don't know a lot about, and used to get fellas taking the head off each other, but I don't know if it's something you need to see before you. I don't know if I would ever be on my deathbed if I hadn't been to see a Giants game. I don't know if I would ever be in, hopefully, decades and decades time surrounded by my family. I don't know if I would say, "Come closer, I have one regret," and they go, "What is it, Grandma? What's your regret? Your hair on your TV show?" And I go, "No, fuck you." And I would say, "I never saw a Giants game." You know, I don't know if that would be a big one, but yeah. And I think this list is lazy because number 20 is Kingspan Stadium for an Ulster rugby game. I mean, again, these are good things, but they're not things you need to do before you die. And number 19 is Carrickfergus Castle. And again, that's one of those ones, like in this picture, it looks beautiful. But no, do you know what? Castles are fun. I'd like to do an episode of it. Can we do an episode of this from a castle? Shane's Castle? Can we do an episode in Shane's Castle? Does anyone listening have contacts in Shane's Castle in Antrim? And can we go and do an episode in Shane's Castle? I'd really like that. Sippers, please get on it and make that happen. I would appreciate it. Ulster American Folk Park. So stuff like that is a really good day out, I think. But I don't like things like that and the Folk and Transport Museum that have people, actors, acting as people from that time. Because I don't like that because you're not. You know, and I get the kids and all like that and it's maybe fun. But at the same time, I don't like walking into a wee thatched cottage in the Ulster American Folk Park and then some woman sitting by a fire with a big bonnet tied around her head and she's sewing and she's like, she's like, my children live in this, 8 of us live in this house, and I churn butter during the day. And I'm like, well, I saw you drive here in a Nissan Micra. I saw you in the car park. I saw you in the car park playing Crazy Birds on your phone. And also, there's a Cafe Nero croissant down beside you and a hot chocolate. So you're not from this time and don't do that because it's weird. It's weird. What you should say is, I am like someone who would be from that time. Don't say you're from that time because I don't like it.
I know somebody, and that somebody is me, who went to the Ulster American Folk Park before and didn't realise that there was the other half of it when you go in the boat and make it to the New World.
What do you mean you didn't know there's another half to it?
You know, you go through the boat and you make it to America.
Yeah.
Only saw all the drudgery and the famine.
Oh, so you never got to see the...
That is the most...
yeah. Because you get over to America and it's class, everyone's class, everyone's having a good time.
Discovered that, yeah.
Oh, wow. It's weird. You spend a lot of time in the Ulster American Folk Park. Number 17, go to the Northwest 200. I've been to the Northwest 200 many times because my dad was a motorbike racer and he took me to a lot of races. And, here's the thing. It's definitely good to go to, for sure. But more, I'd say, for the social side of it. People go to the races, they have a drink. Actually, probably the best bit is walking around the pits. The pits is where like all the teams are set up, where all the bikes are being worked on and all the riders are walking about. And that is actually class because you see like the big teams like, Kawasaki or Honda or whoever, who have like all top of the range, technology. They've got about 4 bikes sitting there. They've like even things like they're maybe sponsored by an energy drinks company, so you've got like these big fridges, and then the more you walk out to the fringes of the pits, you just see guys who are like, doing their own mechanics, or they're just working out of a small van, and it's just them and like a friend or an uncle or whatever. That's always really interesting to see, to be like, there's boys racing here at these speeds that are literally just doing it all themselves, but the actual racing, it's hard because if you sit, say, like in a grandstand and watch it, I don't know, I just find that like everyone goes past you in the flick of a switch. So you're not really getting I like to like continuously watch sport, like a game of football or whatever, because I like to always have something happening. Whereas with road racing, and people will be like, fuck, you're absolutely wrong about this. Road racing, it's like you get to see such an intense flash of sport for a split second, but then you got to wait like a couple of minutes for it to happen again. And I know some people, a lot, like my dad, like love it. But the best thing I did when I went to watch racing, I don't know if it was the Northwest, might have been the Ulster Grand Prix, was we almost like stood in this ditch with loads of people, and your head is like at eye level with the road, and they're narrow country roads, and the bikes go literally past your face. And that was when I went, because I've been to races before, I was like, this is fine. It's not really a sport I'm into. But then whenever I went and saw that, I was like, God, I can now appreciate just how fast they're going and how nuts this is. Number 16, Rathlin Island. If you're a long time listener to the podcast, I love Rathlin. I've been over there to gig quite a lot. It's an actual island off the coast of Ballycastle. It's beautiful. 4 miles by 6 miles. Population about 100 people, and I think I've done about 5 or 6 gigs there, and I love it. Love the people, all of it. It's really real. That is actually something everybody from here should do. Not at the same time and not at the minute, because that would just be irresponsible. 1.4 million people making their way over. They think they were being invaded. Yeah, don't do that. Ring ahead before you come over. But we had some great gigs there. I remember going over so I would like bring comedians over for like comedy nights, and me, Dave, Aaron McCann, Colin Geddes, Rory Woods, Aaron Butler went over about like 3 years ago. And when we were on the ferry over, there are really nice people that have a B&B like right where the ferry leaves you off, and we were staying in the hostel. But I'd stayed in the B&B before. So they saw us coming. They saw me, and they went out and met me, and were like, they only met me once. And the guy was like, here's the keys of my car. He's like, take your mates around the island if they want to, because I think it was maybe about to rain or something. He's like, take your mates around the island if they want to see it all, and sure, just throw the car back to the driveway. So I was like, yeah, that'd be class. And the boys jumped into the car. Some of them walked back to the hostel, and I think me, Kieran, and a couple other, Aaron maybe, and somebody else, and Rory, we got in the car, and I drove them around the island. Now a lot of the island is like very, very narrow, windy roads, and it's like kind of middle of nowhere, because some parts of the island are like pretty densely populated, and then when you get outside of that, it's very, very sporadic. So we were going up this hill on like the far side of the island, and I'm driving this like really old Peugeot. And the road is just all stones, but like really spiky stones. So I stick it into first, and I'm driving really slow. I'm having to give it loads of revs to get up this hill. And I was like, I can't go any faster. So I just have it in first, and I rev for like over a mile. And we're going up this hill, and it was like a cartoon. So it's like me, Aaron, Rory Woods, and Kieran, I think. And we go up this hill in this clapped out car. And then the timing belt I knew just went, and we had gone up this hill, and then like a cartoon, we just kind of all looked at each other, and the rev stopped, and then we were like, we're just traveling backwards now. And we just started going back really slowly down this hill, picking up pace. And I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. So I think I reversed about a mile down a really steep hill, like really, really slowly. And then I got it turned, and then I had to drive it back to this B&B where the people had given me their car. I had to drive it back with the timing belt broke, so the steering was fucked. And it was like a film or something, because I just got it to their driveway. It was like making this big noise, and I knew the timing belt was gone. And I got it back to their driveway, and we all piled out. And I had to just like throw the guy the keys and be like, "Your car now doesn't work." He's like, "Oh, is there a problem with her?" And I was like, "The problem is the car no longer works and never will work again." And I was like, "I'm going to have to buy this man a new car." I was like, how much is it going to cost to get the car off the island? I'm going to have to pay for repairs. I'm going to get it sent back. And this is what the people of Rathlin are like. I was like, "I am so sorry." I was like, "Listen, let me know how much I owe you. I'm so sorry." I was like, I was trying to navigate that hill. And he's like, "Do you know what? On the island, because they're not really driving forever at all," he's like, "we just buy no one buys like top of the range cars." He's like, "You just buy like a runaround car, and we buy them for like really cheap, and then you can sort of sell them as scrap, and then you just get something else at around the same price." So I was like, "What do I owe you?" He's like, I'll just get a new car." What do you mean? He's like, "Yeah, just spend like 250 quid, get a new car." But he's like, "I'll get like 250 quid for this." And I was like, "All right." And that is Rathlin. That is Rathlin. It's class, and I really want to go back. And I think if you're like a writer or a creative or anything like that, and you're like working on something, like I'm working on a script at the minute, and it's hard to like get in the frame of mind to do it with so much going on. But if you have the opportunity to go to Rathlin and stay in like a cottage or whatever, go and do that. It's class. I can't recommend Rathlin enough. I'll fire through one or two more of these. In fact, you know what? We'll continue this. We'll continue this another time, because I've got so many listeners' questions. So let's just get... and my hand fell off the side of that armrest. Okay, we got... By the way, that's another good sign, because whenever I used to put the call out for questions, sometimes you got like one or two questions, and people are just asking a lot of questions these days, which is great. Corey says, "What's the biggest mammal you think you could single-handedly sellotape to a lamppost?" What are some mammals? It depends, because if the animal like was up for you doing that, I don't know if there's a mammal I could. A whale is a whale a mammal? I think that's one of those ones where technically it is. Oh, single-handedly, yeah. Let me see. A chart of... Okay, yeah, mammals. Single-handedly, but is the animal like playing ball?
Stunned.
And a stunned animal. What sort of stunned animal could I single-handedly sellotape to a lamppost? Walrus? No, walrus would be so heavy. I think a big fat otter. A big fat otter. Or a very, very, very small zebra. Mel says, "Woolworths are apparently making a comeback. Did North Down have one? If so, what was your favourite pick and mix or fun-sized drink?" Certainly Hollywood never had a Woolworths. Don't be silly. No, Woolworths would not have gone down well here, because one thing people in Hollywood do not appreciate is value. Okay, we don't like savings. We don't like value. But Bangor would have had. Bangor did have a Woolworths. I think I used to buy CD singles out of it when I was like 14, because I was cool. I think I used to go in and get a pick and mix in 21 Seconds by So Solid Crew. Woolworths making a comeback. I mean, why? Why is it? The pick and mix was good, but I don't know. Arge probably had a Woolworths too, but Hollywood definitely. One thing I really like about Hollywood, because it's the best city, best town in the world, it's best city. What I like is that there's not many chains of businesses here. It's a wee bit like the old town of Edinburgh in a way, which is one reason I like that city. In that it's a lot of like independent shops. It's quirky, kind of smaller places. But Woolworths, if you're thinking of making a comeback, you're thinking of coming back to Hollywood, fuck off. Philip Wilson says, just this, doesn't make sense. He goes, why so lonely? Philip, I don't know if you're asking why am I so lonely, or I don't understand. So I can't answer that, but I am not lonely because I have at least 7 friends and we have at least 7 listeners. So I think I'm doing all right. Hey man, I don't understand the question.
Reference to Lonely Child now.
Lonely Child? No, it was too long ago. Stand-up show. It'd be a very niche reference. Philip, if it's you saying that you're so lonely, you'll be okay. Like, don't. I think during the time of pandemic, people can feel lonely. But what I would do, Philip, is just reflect. Take this time to reflect and see, what you can do to not be lonely. So I don't know, but if you listen to the podcast, you're one of the sippers, so don't feel lonely, man. Mark McCann says, have you ever considered plastic surgery? A question to ask a close friend, a great conversation starter. Have I ever considered plastic surgery? Not plastic surgery, but I did consider getting my ears pinned back whenever I was a child in school, which is always a good thing to be in school. My ears were big and I haven't considered plastic surgery. I do actually have quite a lot of wrinkles around my eyes. Isn't it good that I can always poke fun at my physical appearance? Isn't that good? Because, a lot of people will be like, you're such a good looking guy. Like, do you take yourself so seriously because you are, like, obviously being very attractive. It's good that a humble guy like me can make fun about his physical appearance. Even like, because a lot of people go, oh, your appearance is the only thing you got going for you because, you look like you should be modelling, I don't know, Tommy Hilfiger or whatever, but you're a comedian. But I actually, really, when you break it down, I am not really a good looking guy, but sometimes I can because here's the thing, I've talked about this before, I keep my head busy. I move around a lot. Like, I never really keep my head still. I never really let people see me face on. Like, a lot of times I'm at an angle. I know how to make the lighting work for me. I know how to contour. But have I ever considered plastic surgery? I haven't considered plastic surgery, but for sure, I would, if I was balding, I would definitely go to Turkey, like the paramilitaries, and get my hair done. 100%. I'd go to Rishi Sunak in Turkey and get my hair done. Stone's Mullet says, Michael Stone's Mullet, which is the Twitter account we never knew we needed. It's looking like, do you know who we are as a society with COVID and all this stuff and social distancing and the economy? We are, as a country, as a people, we are Michael Stone stuck in that revolving door of Stormont. Just like hanging in the door, like having been twatted on the head with a baton by a female security guard. We are, the Northern Irish people are Michael Stone stuck in the revolving door of Stormont going, bollocks, I didn't think us through. Like, we had the best intentions. Like, Michael Stone, I'm not saying he, but in his mind, he was like, what I'm going to do is get in here, kill some politicians, even though he said it was performance art. But what happened is, he couldn't negotiate a revolving door. And that's us. I mean, COVID at the start just felt like going through a revolving door. It's like, look, we're going to have to do it. Shouldn't take us too long. We'll be on the other side in no time. And we're still just, hanging in that door with one security guard holding her arm and a female security officer in Stormont having just absolutely mugged us with a baton to the head. Mark Graham says, okay, are you joining the Waffle podcast? When's the joining date? I will definitely do an episode of the Waffle Irish League podcast, but as we have already established on this podcast, we will be doing down the line some sort of spin-off Irish League limited run of podcasts. So I've already signed for another team, basically. Martin ONeill, does Marty's Pizza deliver to Pole Glass? Cheap pizza. Yeah, I'd say wee Marty would deliver to Pole Glass if the, definitely, if it was an attractive lady who'd placed the order, he would definitely like head over there. Michael Thompson says, are you taking the wee cub trick-or-treating this year? I presume talking about Dave Elliott. No, I'm not, because I don't think with social distancing people can trick-or-treat this year. But I do know that one year me and my cousin went trick-or-treating, and I do know we made over 20 quid, and I do know because he thought I was too young, because even though he was only a year older than me, I think he thought that I didn't really know what money was, and I think he gave me like a couple of coins, and he's like, this is half, and I remember thinking this is about 75p, so I'm still owed a lot of money by that. Do you know what the worst thing is? When people go trick-or-treating and they just say trick-or-treat, you gotta do Halloween's coming and the goose is getting fat. Will you please put a penny in the old man's hat? If you haven't got a penny, a halfpenny will do. If you haven't got a halfpenny, God bless you. If you come to my house and just say trick or treat, I'll be honest, I'll slam your head off my door. But if you come and you deliver a song with a little bit of flair, maybe you vibe a little bit to it, you will get yourself 20p and an apple. Not a problem. What about when you call to someone's house and they give you 10p and an apple? What the fuck you doing? Give them cash. Give me cash. Where are the notes at? But then looking back with hindsight, you were always a bit suspicious if someone did give you too much money. You're like, what are you trying to get out of this? Craig Murdoch, how's Desi Buckets getting on this season? And is his sack back to full health, or is he still feeling it? I love when people give niche Keith Cruz metaphors. Desi Buckets ripped. Yeah, that's right. Desi Buckets ripped his ball back. He's had it sewn up, but he's having to ice it, and he's hoping to earn himself a contract with Immaculata Thirds. Pierce Doherty, have you watched the new Borat? Yes, loved it. Alan Armstrong, Phil Soda or Phil Bap, I married you pervert. Matthew, if you had known how 2020 would pan out, would you have done anything differently in preparation, i.e. not done all your lockdown jobs around the house in the first week? Well, Matthew, instead of doing that, I probably would have given people heads up. I probably would have made a few phone calls and been like, listen, what we need to do is close the borders. What we need to do is phone China and say, listen, put the bats down because this is going to kick off. Would I have done anything differently in preparation? No, because the week I painted the fence in the first week of like lockdown and all that, the weather was unreal. So what would I have done differently in preparation? Don't know. It's been all right. I made the point in this podcast that, it's obviously a terrible time, like for like everyone is having struggles of some sort, but, got to do shows. What I would have done in a serious one is probably filmed more stuff before, but then you would never know, and then I filmed stuff during it. So I don't know. Jude Elliott, I would have invested in PPE if I had known. I would have found the top PPE companies in the world and invested all my money in it. Jude Elliott, what's the biggest animal you could beat in a fight? Fuck's sake. Probably a big fat otter, as long as he was self-taped to a lamppost. I just keep punching his head. Mo says, would you rather eat all of your toes or only half of your fingers? Half of my fingers. Because if you didn't have any of your toes, you wouldn't be able to walk. But you don't need you don't probably need the top half of your fingers. Do you? Well.
Does it mean half?
Oh, fingers? Yes. Do you mean 2.5 of my fingers or half of every finger? Because I probably want to eat half of every finger, I would say. This is highbrow content. Robbie Purdy's going to save us though. What's your opinion on buttered digestive biscuits? Well, I think they are a snack exclusively for perverts. Buttered digestive if you butter your digestive biscuit, you belong in a very specialised unit of McGabry. Because what are you doing buttering your digestives? I think it's disgusting. I think it should have a minimum 10-year custodial sentence, and I think anyone who does that also watches animal porn. Ross McKenzie, Cookstown or Danny sausages? Hey man, I think you mean Danny, but I don't know who this guy Danny is slinging sausages around the province, but I'll go Cookstown because Danny, who shows up in a van selling sausages, sounds like a right dodgy bastard. But I don't even eat sausages anymore, man, so But Cookstown are good. Robert, what do you think of Scooter's new 2020 song? First we save rave, then the world. I don't know. Scooter has a new song. I sent Scooter a message a couple of months ago on Instagram to get him on the podcast, but he didn't ever reply to it, so Scooter can go fuck unless he does do the podcast. Scooter 2020 song. Scooter has a song called Fuck. It's called FCK 2020. Very smart, like what you did there. Let me see. Scooter. I mean, it's a different sound for him anyway, and definitely not just him talking over a beat quite loud. Yeah! I mean, one thing I'd say about it is it's fucking brilliant. I mean, a lot of what Scooter is doing is just kind of saying things that I don't think he's thought of beforehand over a beat. Is it a bird? Is it a plane? It must be Dave. He's on the train. What do I get you? What do I get you? Yeah! You know, I don't know. I wouldn't say he's a wordsmith, but I think he knows his way around a beat. And I like him. And I like that he has never aged. And but I don't like that he never responded to me trying to get him on the podcast. But yeah, it's a tune. I like that Scooter's back. I don't know where he's been, but I would like to collab with him in some way. Hang on now. Hold on a wee second here. Maybe a few people using dirty language here because that goes into a wee separate one. R. McLean says, why does everyone outside Belfast buck their cars? Something to do. Warm. You know, if you've driven it somewhere, the exhaust is going to be nice and warm. Remember that documentary about the guy who fucked his car? Can we get some of that video for next week? For Friday, let's do it. Let's get a little bit of that video and we can talk about it. Fletch82 says, what's the most embarrassing thing you've ever done? Hashtag ask Shane. Oh, fuck. I had done a gig in Lurgan. That's not the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. And it was I hadn't been doing stand-up for that long. And I was trying to do some joke where I was talking about paramilitaries. So I list, in whatever the joke was in it, I list some paramilitaries. So I'm like UDA, UVF, IRA, blah, blah, blah. The next night, I was in Belfast on a night out and I was walking to meet friends and I passed the Northern Wig. And it was around election time and there was some bouncers chatting just amongst themselves and I happened to walk past and over here and I heard the guy talking and he goes, you know, DUP, Sinn Féin, SDLP, UUP. And for some mad reason in my head, I thought he was quoting my joke that I did live in Lurgan the night before. I thought he'd been at the gig and he was telling the rest of the bouncers about a funny joke he heard. But at the time, I didn't realise he wasn't saying paramilitaries. He was talking about political parties. And a lot of times they cross over. But I didn't just walk past and go, oh, he must have seen my show. I stopped and went, were you at the show? And this bouncer turned around and went, what? And I said, oh, were you at the show last night in Lurgan? And he said, bear in mind, he was just talking to his mate about the elections. And he said, fuck away off. And I then realised he hadn't quoted what I was talking about. And then I was like, but also, if he had just been listing paramilitaries, maybe he was talking about something else and not one of the 11 people that was at the gig I did in the Cellar Bar in Lurgan. That was one of the worst of all time. And someone else said they knew me once. I know you. And I said, have you seen my videos? And they knew me from living in Hollywood or some like years before I did videos. And the Carlsberg video I did a couple of weeks ago was based on that. The fact someone's like, I know your face. And I'm like, oh, here we go. But it's something else. Daniel McTiernan, why do you hate Dave Elliott so much? Just because he's a horrible man. He's a horrible guy and he's a Judas and I hate him. Andy, if your granny had balls, would she really be your granda? No, if my granny had balls, because my granda had balls, so my granny would just be my granny, but also additionally having balls, additionally to my granda. You know, it would just be two grandparents, four balls. I think my granny used to say, not that phrase, but she would go, when I was a wee lad. My granny used to say it all the time whenever I was a kid, and I always thought that my granny had been a wee lad as well as being a wee girl for a period of her life, but not in like a, what would you say, like a transition way. In my head, I was like, maybe some people, as a kid, I was like, maybe, I never thought about this since, I was like, maybe some people get to live as both genders when like old maybe that was something they did in olden days. It was really weird that I thought that and only didn't think that up until about a year and a half ago. Connor Diver, how long did it take to do each episode of the TV show? Cheers to you, Connor. I appreciate the question, my man. It took about, to do the actual studio stuff, it took about 3 or 4 hours to do each episode. Because I would watch the clip and then I had a script. So because we went from a crew of about 35 down to a crew of 1, it meant everything was a lot quicker because you're not waiting on this guy to do his job so this guy can do his, and you're not waiting on this guy to tell him, yep, I'm sorted with this. It's just you and one person. So it was a lot quicker. So I think we did 3 studio days for 3 episodes and then another day for additional sketches that were filmed outside the studio, and then I probably spent in total like 2 hours doing voiceover clips from home. So anytime you see me doing a voiceover to an old archive bit of clip, I just did that in my living room, which is pretty mad when you think that it's an actual BBC TV show. So I don't know whether that's way longer than you thought or way shorter, but I think ordinarily, like when we did the pilot episode for a 25-minute episode, it was hours and hours and hours because it's the first time we've done it. Carl Cunningham says, do you think you would be able to co-commentate on one of the Irish League matches, and how do we make it happen? I would love to co-commentate on one of the Irish League matches because BBC do brilliant coverage. And even like I know a lot of the Irish League clubs are doing their own stream of the game and doing like commentary and all that kind of thing. So I'm up for it. If any Irish League club want me to come and commentate on a game, you know, to be like not the main commentator, but if any Irish League club want me as Keith Cruz to commentate on a live Irish League game on your stream, I'll do it for free. So the offer's out there. Any Irish League club want me to do it in the next wee while, I'll commentate in the game, and I would love to do that because I put out a tweet about the BBC coverage like the week before, being like, this is so good, showing Irish League games. I love Irish League, but because I play football on Saturdays, I never get to see Irish League matches. So getting to watch it, like I watch Irish League over the Premiership at the minute. That's class. But at half time in the games, there's just like a card of like who's playing and like elevator music. So I would love to like make stuff to be shown on BBC at half time of the game, like Keith Cruz sketches, Bunter sketches, all that kind of thing. So the offer's out there. If any Irish League club want me to, in exchange for a load of training gear, if they want me to come and commentate in the game, I would love to. Dawson Cleland, would you rather fight off 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? The number 1 podcast question of all time. The most asked podcast question ever on any podcast. I'd rather fight a horse-sized duck, probably. Because I don't think they'd move that well because they're big web feet, so I'd just stand the web feet and just smack his beak. Yeah, this is weird. There's an account, Soothing Yoga Voice, who just commented on one of my posts recently and just kept incessantly asking like, why was I verified on Instagram and why are they not verified? I don't know. I don't know why you're asking me that. And why am I verified? Because I'm cute. I think I'm verified because I'm killing it. I think I'm verified just because, you know, there have been fake accounts set. I don't know why this thing happened, but loads of fake social media accounts got set up for loads of comedians where it was like 100 grand cash giveaway. And I had to report so many accounts. It happened to Colin Geddes. I think it happened to some other people I know as well. So maybe they're clamping down on that. I don't know, but From looking at your profile, you got 396 followers. Your profile picture is a picture of a dog. I think you're not verified because that might seem to people to be boring, and I'm not one of them. But I honestly don't know. What's the first comedy gig you went to? Live was probably the Empire when I was about 16. We were at Tech. I remember going to see the comedy in the Empire and being blown away and being like, these people are from here, a few of them, and they're doing stand-up. I didn't know you could, so that kind of fueled my desire to do stand-up. Cheers for the question. Dean Carroll says, you going trick-or-treating and what's your favourite sweet? I've answered trick-or-treating, but my favourite sweet, I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but you know what I can definitely appreciate? A blackjack. Wee blackjacks. Wee fruit salad and a wee blackjack. Very 1995. Yeah, blackjacks are good. James Wilkinson, if you were sent to jail, what crime would it be for and how would you survive your time inside? I'd survive my time inside by just keep working out like I am doing, and I wouldn't take any shit. And I would say, I walk in and go, here, I'm not taking any shit. What crime would it be for? Probably crimes against hairstyling, if you watch the pilot on my show or saw any of the promo images. Crimes against fashion, maybe. Something very fashionable. Matthew Mernon, talk about Guinness, not 0.0%. Yeah, I mean, it seems very logical, and like, why has that not been a thing? Because there's so many alcohol-free beers. People want to drive, but they want to have a beer. I don't know. As long as the taste is good, then it's good. But Guinness is such a particular taste. Like, I love Guinness, but such a particular taste that I think it'd be hard to replicate without alcohol, because any beer I've had, like alcohol-free, that doesn't taste like the beer it's supposed to be, if that makes sense, apart from Peroni. But gluten-free Peroni gave me a hangover for 2 days. Very recently, I had 2 bottles of it, and honestly, I had a day-long hangover. So, but it tastes very, very good. It's a nice tasting gluten-free beer I've had. Peter Wood says, what's your favourite thing to do in Balnahinch? Probably purchasing myself some gluten-free hobnobs in Carlisle's garage. And that's just a very literal answer to that. Okay. Oh, that's funny. Jenny says, Shane, could you maybe do me a favour and stop interviewing all the girls from Methody class of 2010? Making me feel like I've done nothing in my life in the last 10 years. Seeing all my classmates doing so well. Cheers. Only messing. Love the podcast. Just wish I was an MMA fighter or a Broadway actress so I could get on the pod. Right, so we're Christina Bennington, the actress on the podcast last week, who must have been the same year as Liam McCourt, Bellator MMA fighter. So yeah, I didn't realise that they must have been the same year in school. So yeah, Jenny, how paranoid would you be if just I literally had everybody from your year in school on the podcast, but not you? You'd have a complex. Jenny, do something mad. Get yourself well known. Get yourself on the podcast. Maybe you're already well known and I don't know about it. Do a stunt. You know what I mean? Like, if you were to break the land speed record on a BMX, I'd definitely have you on the podcast because I'd have a lot of questions about that. Luke says, what's your order from the Poke Van? Well, the thing about Poke Vans, which is ice cream vans for people outside of Belfast, ice cream vans, whenever I was younger, in the estate out the road here, the ice cream man you would find, like, you had your ice cream man, right? I think the ice cream man here was called Robert. Maybe you're Robert the ice cream man, who's a legendary ice cream man. Killed it. Unbelievable. Really good ice cream. But then you would get another ice cream van that like once a month would put into the estate, and that fella sold everything apart from ice cream. Like, I remember going to him once and being like, alright mate, could I get a 99 and a can of Coke? And he's like, fuck are you talking about? What I can give you is a bottle of Glen's vodka and a Man United top with Shearer 9 on the back. You know, and I was like, Alan Shearer doesn't play for Man United. And he's like, I know, but he will, kid. That's how dodgy ice cream men were. He thought he had the inside scoop on English Premier League transfers. So you could buy any, there was ice cream men running about there was legit ice cream men, and then there was ice cream men running about selling, selling knockoff copies of Flubber 2. And out of the way ice cream dispenser, it wasn't ice cream. It was just tenants. Ice cream men selling pints to 8-year-old kids. But my order from the Pope ban, by border bumper Pope ban, would have been a 99 with a flake in it and a wee bit of strawberry sauce. Shh, cheeky. Jack Core, who would you last longer in a fight with? Conor McGregor or Khabib? I'd probably take both of them about 3 rounds, but I would say I'd last longer with Khabib because McGregor would probably just kick my head off my shoulders, and Khabib could do that if he wanted, in fairness, but he would wrestle me to the ground and then he would just maul me, but that would take, I think, a couple of seconds longer. But I don't know, like if I moved well enough, I could submit McGregor and probably knock out Khabib. Kane McGivern, if you were stranded in Uri and you were only allowed one item, what would it be? If I was stranded in my car, because then I wouldn't be stranded in Uri anymore and I could drive back to my house. But maybe I would want to do something in Uri, like maybe I'd want to... There's actually a nice wee garage on the way out in Uri towards Belfast. Like, nice wee garage. And if I'm gigging in Uri, I stop at that garage on the way home and I get a cup of tea and a biscuit. I need to pee and there's loads of questions here, so I'm going to just rifle through these. Aaron McCauley, how long until we see you commentating Irish League games this season as Keith Cruz yourself? Yes, this is a movement that started. Irish League clubs, listen to me. Linfield, Glentoran, Glenavon, Dungannon Swifts, Portadown, Warrenpoint, Cliftonville, Crusaders, Coleraine, Ballymena United, Carrick. I think that might be them all, but if I've left one out, the fans from that club will get extra annoyed. Get me on. I'm going to commentate in the game. You've got the option. I'll commentate as myself and I'll do it semi-seriously, or I'll do it in full Keith Cruz mode. Whatever you want. Dara says, what's happening, Shane? Found a photo of me and you from when I was 16. My question is, how was your service in the restaurant that... Oh, thank God. How was your question in the restaurant that day that the photo was taken? If it was horrible, don't be afraid to say, as the place is no longer in operation. I think, is that place... that was in St. George's Market where I got a fry. Dara, the service was good, mate. I think you did a fine job. And I had a good time. So, yes, you deserved the sizable £1.25 tip that I gave you. No, it was good, mate. Ruben Wilson, what celebrities have you met? All of them. Next. Who haven't I met? Cliff Richard. Nick, who would your ideal realistic guest be? I think every guest is in a way realistic, because if you don't ask, you don't get. Like when I asked Snoop Dogg to do an episode, but I called him Jamie, because I copied and pasted a message from Jamie Foxx, and now people know that. And then I said, hey, when you're asking a question, just call me Jamie. Just say, hey, Jamie. And people started doing it. And every time I see that, it makes me laugh. But no one's off the table. Like, look, I've tried to get Scooter. I've tried to get Snoop Dogg. There's no one I wouldn't try and get. In fact, I floated the idea of getting a very prominent ex-paramilitary member on the podcast. And I said to Dan, is this a good idea? And in his role as producer, he said no. I said, should we get this guy on? Because he'd have a story or two to tell. And he said, no, we shouldn't. And then I said, but for what reason? And he named 15 reasons. And I went, fair. Maria Quinn, since we're in lockdown and everyone's supporting local, who or what local companies would you recommend or support yourself? Loads. None more so than michaelfoster.tv. I'm looking at him. He's doing your video work. He's making you a nice video of whatever you want. You got a business, you want a really nice video done, or if you're just an individual and you're like, listen, I am a guy from Helens Bay, but I want to be a K-pop star, like Korean pop star, and you've written an original song, you want to shoot a video down Helens Bay Beach of you with dyed blue hair in like a PVC tracksuit doing moves in Helens Bay Beach, michaelfoster.tv, and weirdly that's his real name. Will come down, he'll shoot it, and you'll enjoy it. You'll have a nice time. Loads of places. I'm not actually going to specifically name places off the top of my head, but I do honestly like to support local. That's the thing. I mean, I'll still, don't get me wrong, still go to the odd Nero, go to the odd Starbucks, but when I buy teas and coffees, we have so many brilliant places in Hollywood here. We've got the Bay Tree right under us. We've got Coffee Yard. We've got Homebird. We've got Edge Coffee. There's Alexander's. There's so many businesses I love here in Hollywood, because Hollywood's a small town, and sometimes corporate, like bigger businesses come in, they don't last because people go, I know what I like. Orr's Butchers, Stevie and Jerry, Darren, the best guys in the world. Orr's is brilliant. So I love supporting local, and I love my town because it's the best town in the world. Okay, that's the end of the questions, but I got a message from Autism NI, who have said, Shane, hope you're well. We're having a virtual glow walk on the 7th of November. Love it if you could maybe mention that for us. Our fundraising struggled during the pandemic, and this is a great event to get our autism community together. Families can sign up for a free glow pack by visiting autismni.org. We'd appreciate your help. Well, guys, hopefully that does help. We're getting that message out there to the sippers. Autismni.org if you want to get involved with that. Autism NI probably don't even know this, but my sister is autistic, so I think that's a great cause. I'll go do some reading about it, see what you guys are doing. A light the night in a fun 5k walk, so they're doing it virtually, which is probably a class family idea. Saturday 7th of November 2020. So there you go. We'll put a description for that in the link of the podcast, and I wish you the best of luck with your event. Also, we were doing loads more charity reads like that over lockdown. People doing fundraising, if you're doing an individual thing or whatever. If you have anything you want us to mention on the podcast, teawithmepodcast@gmail.com. Send me it and we'll read it out and put it in the description of the podcast and all that. Sippers, before we go, patreon.com/teawithmepodcast. If you want to support the podcast, get some extra content, you do that there. Also, manscaped.com, teawithme for 20% off and free shipping. Michael films the podcast. michaelfoster.tv. Nearly give his email address there, like his personal one. So michaelfoster.tv. If you are a business in lockdown going, listen, we need to get the word out there. We're doing something cool over lockdown. Document it. Get the big guy to do it. Sippers, thanks very much for listening and watching the podcast. You know, if you want any merch, we've got Tea With Me mugs. We've got Sipper t-shirts, Money Toad t-shirts, which I actually need to get myself one of each to wear on the podcast. Shopify.com, Shane Todd Comedy. You'll find that over there. Thank you very much for listening and watching. The TV show goes out again Friday, 10:45, BBC One Northern Ireland. It's available on the iPlayer. Previously with Shane Todd. Thanks, much love. Support local. Autism NI. It's a good time. Watch the Borat movie. Matthew Townley. No, you don't get to keep the Tupperware with the elastic bands on it, but I hope since school you've made your own, and I hope you're still playing tunes on it, man. All the best. Keep riffing.